There's a famous story in the book of Luke that for centuries has been known as the parable of the prodigal son. It's a story about a son who takes his father's inheritance, wastes it all, and then returns to a forgiving father. But it is a great mistake to think that this is a story about just one son. It's actually a tale of two sons. It's a story about a younger brother and an elder brother. We are meant to compare and contrast them. And if we don't compare and contrast them, we miss the radical message that Jesus is leading us to. This parable undermines the existing paradigms, the existing categories we have for understanding our relationship with God. And there's something else very interesting about this story. For a long time, there has been a simple formula, a simple three-act formula for telling a story. As you build the story, you first begin with background information and setup. Then you introduce the problem or the conflict, and finally there's the resolution. But Jesus doesn't follow the rules here. Why? The clues come right at the beginning of the first act. The first act begins with a speech. The younger son comes to the father and says, "Father, give me my share of the estate." Now, the original listeners to this story would have been amazed at such a request. If you were a father and you had two sons and you died, your estate would have been divided 2/3 to the older son, 1/3 to the younger son, because the oldest son in those days always got a double portion of what every other child got. But this only happened when the father died. So when the younger son comes and says, "Give me my share of the estate now," while the father's still alive, it's basically to wish the father dead. The younger son wants the father's things, but not the father. He wants the father's wealth and estate. He wants the comfort and the prestige and the independence that goes with those things. But he doesn't want the father. He wishes the father was dead. That's unheard of. But even more unheard of was the father's response to the request. If the original listeners were amazed at the son's speech, they would have been even more amazed at how the father responded to what the younger brother said. An ancient Middle Eastern father would have been expected to have driven the boy out of the house with verbal, if not violent, physical blows. But this father does not do that. What does the story say? It says, he divided the property between them. The Greek word used here for property is the word bios. It means the course of life, or that which by life is sustained. So the story really says the father divided his life between them. Why does it say that? The father's estate was his land. The father's wealth was his land. So the only way he could give his younger son 1/3 of his estate was to sell that land. In those days, people's very identity was bound up with their land. If you lost your land, you lost yourself. If you lost part of your land, you lost your status in the community, which was tied up to how much property you had. So what the younger son is asking the father to do is this. He's asking him to tear his life apart, to tear his standing in the community apart, to tear himself apart. And the father does. He divided his property between them, leaving him with 2/3 of the estate. So the son takes his share and goes off and squanders everything that he's been given. And he comes to the point where he's impoverished, where he's been taken advantage of, and his life is in absolute ruins. And when he's literally in the pigsty, when he's literally down in the mud. He comes to realize what a fool he's been, and he comes up with a plan. The first part of that plan is to go home. He says, in my Father's house there's bread to spare, and I'm starving here. I will go and confess to my Father. He'll go home. Now this is simple, and yet it's very profound. Home is not primarily a place. It's a relationship. It's where you belong. It's where you are accepted. And he longs to come home. But there's a second part to this plan. He says, I will go to the Father, and I will say, Father, I am not worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. This is not a request to become a slave. Slaves worked on the estate. Slaves lived on the estate. A hired man lived in town and had a wage. What he's actually saying, therefore, is that he wants to pay the Father back. He knows that you did not come back into a community whose morals you have violated just through an apology. You had to make restitution. So he's coming to his Father, and he's saying, Father, I don't want to be reinstated as a son. I don't want the status of sonship. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy of it. I want to earn my way back. Make me like one of your hired men. I want to pay you back. That's the plan. So he heads off home. And the Father sees him coming from afar off. Now, if you are a father and you see your adult son coming, and this is a son who has harmed your family and has squandered a lot of your wealth, you see him through your window as you're sitting at your kitchen table, what are you going to do? You'll be sitting there and you will just tap your feet and you'll say, this better be good. Maybe if he's abject enough, maybe if he grovels enough, I might find that my affection is rekindled. This better be good. But what's the story say? This father, when he saw him coming from afar off, and he had compassion on him, and the father runs toward him. Now, ancient Middle Eastern patriarchs did not run. Children ran, youth ran, women might run, but not fathers, not owners of the estate. That would mean picking up your skirts and baring your legs, and you just didn't do that. But this father does. He shows complete emotional abandon. He runs to his son. He kisses him. And the Greek says he fell on his neck. Now the son tries to roll out his restitution plan, but the father will have nothing of it. He says to his servants, come, put a robe on him, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Now the ring is significant. It was a signet ring. It had the family seal on it. Back in those days, you didn't make a contract by signing something. You put the family seal from the signet ring on the contract. What is happening then is this. The son has said, I don't want to be brought back into the family. I want to earn my way back. But the father is saying now, I'm not going to let you earn your way back. I'm going to bring you back. And so he confers sonship on him like that in a stroke. By sheer grace, he grants it. And he throws a magnificent feast to commemorate the day that his lost son has come home. Some people are like the younger brother. They want the things that God provides, but they don't want God. They want their independence. They want to live their lives the way they want to live them, and they believe it will bring them happiness. And some of them, like the younger son, one day decide to go home. And because the father in the parable represents God, we are being told nothing less than this. No matter who you are, no matter how awful the stuff that you've done, if you come home, God will accept you, He will love you, and it's all by sheer grace. All of us are like the younger son, because when we first come to God, we say, I'm not worthy, I want to earn my way back, I want to try hard to pull it all together, and the biblical God will have none of it. He gives us the full rights as sons. He confers sonship on us through Jesus Christ. It's a standing, it's a status, it's secure. We're accepted. At the end of Act 1, everything appears to be back to normal. The conflict has been resolved, the younger son has been forgiven by the father. The family's reunited, right? Not exactly. There's one more character in this story we haven't met yet. He has not yet learned that the lost son has been found. Now, almost always, when people think of this story, it's all about Act 1. The younger son, his coming home, the father's acceptance. And as a result, almost everyone thinks of this story in the most sentimental terms. We imagine the original listeners hearing this marvelous story of forgiveness and their eyes welling up with tears. But if you look at the context, if you look at the people Jesus was speaking to, if you look at Jesus' purposes in telling this parable, you'll realize that the original listeners were not wiping away tears from their eyes. They were thunderstruck. They were offended because Jesus' purpose in telling this parable was not to give us a sentimental message that somehow God will accept us no matter what we do. He is here to say basically this, that everything you've ever heard and everything you've ever thought about how to approach God is wrong. The story continues in Act 2, when a new conflict arises as the father throws a feast. So Jesus continues. The older brother was in the field, and when he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called a servant and asked him what was going on. And the servant replied, "Your brother is come, and your father has killed the fattened calf for him, because he has him back safe." But the elder brother was furious. He was so angry that he refused to go in and join the feast. It was his turn now to assault the integrity of the family. He was saying by not going in, "I will not be part of this family. I will not. I'm the heir, and I don't want to be in the same family with him in it." This forced the father to come out and plead with the elder brother. But he won't come. He's abrasive to the father. He says, "Look." Notice he doesn't call him father. He says, "Look, all these years I've been good. I've never disobeyed you. And when this son of yours that squandered your property comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. I will not come in." Notice he doesn't say, "My brother." He doesn't even say, "Your son." He says, "This son of yours." He will not acknowledge being in the same family with him. Now, the elder brother's furious, but he's particularly upset about the cost. You see, in those days, people did not eat meat at a meal. They didn't because it was so expensive. It was a great delicacy. But the most expensive delicacy of all was the fattened calf. And it was not the sort of thing you would do even for a private party. So when the father kills the fattened calf, we know that meant that the entire village would have been at that costly feast. But the elder brother is too furious to go in. Now, you don't need a PhD in psychology, if you are the elder brother, to realize that this was the greatest day in the father's life. In fact, the father, by killing the fattened calf and inviting the entire village to this feast, is showing that this is the greatest day in the father's life. Anybody can see that. The elder brother certainly sees that. But it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care. All he sees is that the father is using his inheritance in a way that he doesn't approve of. So what does this elder brother care for? What does he really care about? He cares about the Father's things. But he doesn't really care about the Father. He cares about the estate. He cares about the expense of all this. He's worried about the fattened calf. And he says, why couldn't it have just been a goat? He cares for the Father's things, but he doesn't care about the Father's heart. You see, when the Father went out to plead with the elder brother, he says, my son, you're always with me, and everything I have is yours. And that's the literal truth. Because when he divided his property between them, the younger son took his share, and now it's gone. And every single thing now that the Father owns, the elder brother will inherit. He's the only heir. It's all his. And all he can see is his share diminishing as a result of the younger brother's return. So he's furious, and he's humiliating the father on the greatest day of his life. And he's making the poor father come out of his great feast and argue with him. But how does the father respond? Again, he responds tenderly, and he says, my son, I still want you in the feast. And just as we're on the edge of our seats, just as we're asking the questions, how will the elder brother respond? And will the family be reunited in love? And will they all come together at the end? Jesus just ends the parable. He never tells us. Cliffhanger. Why? What is Jesus trying to get across? Much of the brilliance of Jesus' story lies in that, in the first act, we get a very traditional depiction of sin. You look at the younger brother and you say, yep, there it is, insulting the father, lover of prostitutes, down in the pigsty, down in the gutter, dissolute, licentious, self-indulgent. Yep, I recognize that. That's sin. But when you get to the end of the second act, Jesus has completely turned the tables. Here's what you see. You have two sons, one good, one bad, but they've both been alienated from the Father. And you come to realize they both want the Father's things, but not the Father. They've both been using the Father to get the things they really love, which is the wealth and the status. But one has been doing it by being very, very bad, and the other has been doing it by being very, very good. See, why does the older brother not go into the feast? He tells you. He says it. He says, I have never disobeyed you. There it is. That's the reason I'm mad. That's the reason why I'm not going into the feast. In other words, the thing that is keeping him from the Father is not his sin, it's his goodness. It's his righteousness. The younger brother was trying to get control by leaving and disobeying. But the elder brother was trying to get control by staying and obeying. The younger brother was trying to get control of the Father's things by breaking all the rules. But the elder brother was trying to get control of the Father's things by keeping all the rules. And Jesus is showing us that they're both lost. They both are without a relationship to the Father. They're both alienated from the Father, and they're both alienated from God. So there are two kinds of lostness. That's the reason Jesus put the elder brother in the parable. You can escape God as much through morality and religion as you can escape God through immorality and irreligion. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of Christians with an elder brother type of heart. If in your heart of hearts you say, I try very hard, I try to be obedient, I go to church, I pray, I try to serve Jesus, therefore, God, you owe it to me to answer my prayers, to give me a relatively good life, and to take me to heaven when I die. If that's the language of your heart, then Jesus is your model, Jesus is your example, Jesus is your boss, but he's not your Savior. You're seeking to be your own Savior. And all your morality and all your religion It's all just a way to get God to give you the things you really want. And they are not God Himself. Elder brothers obey to get things from God. And if those things aren't forthcoming,